All right. And welcome to the cross country fall recap edition. One of multiple fall Olympic sports recaps we will have here on Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel. With me to talk about the 2022 cross country season back from the preview earlier in the year, it is Coach Bryan Jackson. Coach Jackson, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. We had Anne-Marie Blaney on for our preview show. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it this time, but Coach, it's great to have you for this. So just talk to me about what your feeling is on the place of the cross country program now exiting to the American into the Big 12.
Yeah, I think we're in a great place. I think what this season showed us is that we have a lot of young individuals who are really ready to make that jump. A ton of individual success this cross country season, especially with our younger girls, because of those freshmen and sophomores. And I'm really excited to kind of that's our building block for the future going into the Big 12.
Yes, two of the you mentioned them in our preview show, and you were right on the money on with Isabella Richardson and Penelope Sosa. Those two did, I think, out of all of them, those two had some quite amazing individual success. Of course, Isabella Richardson absolutely shattering the UCF freshman 5K record, and I believe if my numbers are right, overall, she's actually in the top 5 now all time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Maybe second or third.
So let me see, 1712.4 she had it at the North Alabama Showcase on September 16th. That is in 4th place, just 0.4 seconds behind Sonja Shedden's time from 2000. I mean, basically, aside from her and Anne-Marie Blaney only ever ran faster than that twice. And Isabella Richardson did it as a freshman. Can you just talk about what it was like to get her? Because I remember she told me after the home meet that was her first like official 5K on American soil. So what was it like for her to kind of adjust to, moving to the US and then adjusting to the, running collegiate cross country?
Yeah, no, she adjusted very quickly. I think her early season racing kind of shows that and how well she raced early on. And, I know she was hoping for a little bit more down the home stretch. And but freshman year is a big learning experience, especially when you're moving to a different country. And I couldn't be more pleased with how her freshman year went. And mostly from the standpoint of just like a, a lot of excitement about what her career has in store for her.
One thing I did notice is when I look at the 5Ks, I see you guys did absolutely great on the 5Ks. The second place at your home meet, first place at FAU, ninth place at North Alabama, and considering how many people were there pretty good. But then you have the 6Ks with the last 3 races, and that's when things sort of dropped off a little bit. So can you talk about like how much of a difference is there between the 5K and the 6K races, and what do you think you might be able to improve on as far as the 6K goes, or is it just the same?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is when you have a young team, they create in their mind a big difference, right? They're coming from high school where all they're running is 5Ks. They get to college, and in their mind, they create it to be a bigger difference than it really is. And I think a lot of how our woes at the end of the season I think most of them were kind of are inflicted by our youth, and just not having the established experience among that top 5 that we needed. If you look at that top 5 at the end, you got freshman, sophomore, I think freshman, junior in there, right? Is that about right? Or junior, freshman? But no seniors, only one person that's above a sophomore class, and a lot of freshmen. So um, that speaks volumes to what's going to happen in the years to come, especially with some of the girls that we're adding in the mix next year in particularly. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of that's just self-inflicted and kind of just due to our inexperience.
Well, the inexperience was certainly not a problem for Penelope Sosa, who picked up your only individual victory on the season with the FAU Invitational. You guys go back to FAU a lot, and so it's not like it's unfamiliar ground for you guys to go there. But Penelope went out in her first time there and took first place. So can you talk? You mentioned Isabella, but Penelope's been kind of bubbling right there with her. So how has it been with her?
Yeah, Penelope had a phenomenal freshman year. Um, yeah, I think she's got a lot of room to continue to grow as well. And I think she definitely gained a lot of experience this year, learned a lot of what it's going to take from a training perspective to be very good. And I expect her real breakout to probably come next fall.
So yeah,
Kind of like Lillian broke out this year. I mean, Lillian's a girl that has to go mentioned here because she absolutely lit it up at the end of the year and really set some huge personal bests.
she did. She did. I noticed her five. She ran her 5K personal best this season at 18:11. She was kind of bubbling right under there with her 6K personal
Right?
best. And yeah, I mean, I remember Lillian was one of those kind of standout young runners as far as last season goes. So now that you have Isabella and you have Penelope there, and now you have Lillian there too. How much do you think you'll be able to be able to build around them as you go into the Big 12? And do you think that'll help you recruit even more runners?
Yeah, absolutely. When you start having success up front, like Izzy is, it definitely helps recruit more. I know we already have a young lady signed for next fall coming from England, who's going to be right up there with Izzy and kind of give us another pretty good low stick in cross country with Penelope. And so I think, you know, the future is definitely very bright.
Do you think so? What about as far as most improved? Because obviously Izzy and Penelope have kind of been dominating the top of the leaderboard throughout the rest of the race. But one thing that Anne-Marie Blaney has said that really stuck out with me is the pack mentality
Mhm.
of cross country. And so obviously, when if you could you will the eyes could go on to Izzy and Penelope up at the front, but you have a lot of other people trying to improve on their best times behind them. So who would you say has made the biggest jump during this season that maybe has gone a little under the radar?
Yeah, the biggest jump has to be Lillian. As far as like a returner here, she made a very impressive jump. I think almost a minute in her 6K, she dropped off, if not maybe more than that. I'd have to look back at her freshman times to verify that, but I'm pretty sure that 21:34 that she ran at the regional meets almost a minute faster, if not more than a minute faster than she ran her freshman year. And then the freshman, Andrea but Balestro had a phenomenal freshman year. This is a young lady that, kind of was running in the 19s a lot in high school, mid 19s, and she came out early on. She was down 18:28, and then she got down in the 6K to about 22:26, and so that's a really good freshman year. And Riley as well had a really big breakout freshman year for us.
So end up going to the NCAA South Region Championship. You head back to North Alabama. Do you think that running in that North Alabama 5K helped you prepare for that, or do you think that it being a 6K, that kind of mental difference kind of kicked in?
No, I think it definitely helped us prepare. And if you look at our struggles at the conference championship, that regional meet is a much better performance for us. Still probably kind of short of what we were expecting of ourselves, but a team like Memphis found a way to beat us at conference, and then we went to the regional meet and beat them by over 200 points. So I think that shows right there how much better of a team than we were than what our conference results showed. Um, and so that regional meet, I think a lot of that we weren't adapting to a new course and a 6K. We were familiar with the course, and now it was just kind of like that 6K distance that we had to adapt to.
Yeah, you mentioned that conference championship. I remember back at the preview when we talked about about maybe hoping to get back in the top five there. Unfortunately, that wasn't really to be. Not exactly the way you want to go out in AAC play, but what do you think? Is there anything from that race that you think really, I guess, help you guys prepare for that NCAA South region, or at least progress them forward?
No, the key there is just putting that one behind us, you know, and
Yeah.
not putting too much stock into it. It wasn't our day. We don't want to make any excuses. We didn't get it done on that day. And that's cross country and track and field, right? Like you could be undefeated all season and then go to the championship and not get it done. And you are defined by those moments as a team. And so we kind of have to live with that and kind of put that chip on our shoulder going forward and be better because of that, you know?
So one thing I noticed is that cross country seems to be really dominated by a lot of younger runners. Now, I don't know and you obviously do have the Katie Pinnells and the Charlotte Crooks and the Mariana Rodriguez's, but like as far as like the dominant, like a majority of the team are of the younger ones. Is that just something where they focus on a track and field event, or is cross country sort of, a good way to help get them introduced to the track and field program?
It's a good way to get introduced to the track and field program. They all have track events they're focused on. I think why you're seeing our younger classes kind of being our front runners right now is because that's recruiting has trended and we've been, able to attract higher calibers of runners as we go here recently who have that cross country um, pedigree, right? And the Katie Pinnells she's an 800-meter runner, so cross country is not really in her wheelhouse. She does it to prepare for track season, but track is where she shines. And same with Charlotte. Charlotte's really a track athlete who runs well on the cross country course. And I think where you're seeing some of these freshmen is, they have a really strong cross country pedigree to them. And they're also going to be they're also going to do very well on the track.
Yes, and I want to talk about the track a little bit because I am gonna obviously try to talk to Coach Boone and do the preview for that. But of course, you work with the distance runners, and so as far as that goes, now that you're transitioning into these distance track and field events, how does one, I guess, prepare for that transition, especially for these young runners like Isabella Richardson and Penelope Sosa, who I saw on the roster, so we could be
Yep.
seeing them in, like, new events and a new
Yeah. Yeah.
surface.
Yeah. You're going to be seeing them on the track here in about a month's time. And, I think they've done this in high school, right? They've run cross country and track. We recruit those type of distance runners who can perform really well on all surfaces, right? I think there's some of those girls out there coming from high school that are really just like they're just a cross country or just a track. We really focus on those ones that really can have the pedigree to perform on both surfaces very well. And so I think that's what you're going to see from some of these girls. I think you're going to see a breakout season from Lillian Holtree onto the track. I think you're going to see Izzy continue to kind of set some records here and establish herself as one of the best distance runners to ever run at UCF. Obviously Anne Marie set the bar very high for that to be the best. And I'm not going to make those type of claims yet. It's too early in her career to say that, but she's definitely gonna start turning some heads as one of the best to ever do it at UCF.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that as a freshman, she managed to run faster than basically Anne-Marie Blaney ever did, except for 2 times. Doing that as a freshman in your second official race on American soil. I mean, that certainly announces your presence right there. So what do you think as far as like events that we could do they have any set events that they do yet, or is it more of like is it just depending on what they're up for? Or
Yeah, I think both those young ladies, Penelope and Izzy, are going to run from the mile up to potentially the 5K and everything in between. What they end up racing at the championships, we'll just kind of wait and see how the season plays out.
so who do you think? So you mentioned a breakout season from Lillian. Who do you think as far as this cross country season to help them prepare? Do you think that because you mentioned that Charlotte and Katie are more of kind of emphasize the track a little bit and they use cross country to kind of help prepare for that? So what do you think about those athletes that kind of were preparing for this next track and field season? Do you think I showed improvement that you're looking for a good season out of them?
I think most of the team is really positioned to have a pretty good indoor and outdoor track and field season. Like I've been saying Lillian, because I think she's gone to another level this year in her training compared to her freshman year. So I'm just beyond excited to kind of get her racing again on the track. We're going to be patient and manage her season a little differently than we did in the past, but in due time, she'll be on the track, and I think she's going to turn some heads. You know, I think Katie Pinnell is going to have a really nice track and field season. She always is very consistent and handles her business on the track. The other ones, it's just hard to say. Like, I would expect Riley's going to have a really good track season and set some huge personal bests. I think a young lady that we didn't see a whole lot in cross country, a freshman for us, Kendall Hughes. She's coming out of high school as the Florida high school 800-meter state champion. So I would expect that's a young lady that we're going to be talking a lot more about on the track compared to cross country.
So eight, and I'm guessing she's already kind of put her stamp on the 800 meters.
Yeah, Kendall. Yeah.
Awesome. So now that you're transitioning into this, you mentioned that recruiting is going up. Like you mentioned, you look for both cross country and track. And so now that you're going into this track and field season, how does these track and field things now in the spring kind of influence their cross country, or is it more of cross country influences track, or is it of just kind of a back and forth?
It's just kind of a back and forth. I think you really look at the whole year, and the key to being successful in our sport and distance running is being able to be very consistent in how you train year round. It's not just training just for a season here or a season there, but it's building month in and month out consistency in your training. And the more consistent you can be throughout the year, and then stacking years on top of years and, of training consistently, that's where real development takes place. So for a lot of these freshmen, that's what we're working on right now, is just continually stacking weeks of consistent training on top of weeks of consistent training to make it months of consistent training, so that we can go into track season as fit as we've ever been. And then, that should lead into some of the best racing we've ever done.
It's kind of interesting because we see the distance runners basically the most out of all the track and field athletes, because the track and field season have those, like such as Renaya and Latasha, have the indoor and outdoor season in the spring, but we see the distance runners a little bit earlier with cross country. You kind of talk about that consistency, and obviously consistency in training is across all track and field.
Absolutely.
It is important, but as far as the distance runners goes, I mean, the consistency it kind of applies, because you mentioned that there isn't a specific season that you prepare for like the others. Am I kind of on the right track there with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's a year. It's really a lifestyle. It's a year-round commitment to training. There in the summer, the goal, if they're going to be successful in the upcoming year, it's just a summer of consistent training, week in and week out. And consistency really is king when it comes to distance running. The most consistent are usually the most successful.
What do you want to see from these runners through these track and field season that they can take with them to their first cross country season in the Big 12?
Yeah, I want to see consistency in two arenas. I want to see consistency in training, and then consistency in how we compete. Because I think the one thing we did really well as a team this fall is we had a lot of great consistency in our training. We trained at a very high level as a team. I thought once we got into the later in the season, and I think I think you can see this from how we raced. We were consistently racing in those packs and really with that pack mentality early in the season. And then once we got into that second half of the season, we lost that identity a little bit. And we raced a lot more as a lot of individuals out there. And we got away from that identity that we had started to build early in the cross country season. And that's where our team scores started to struggle late. And so I just want to get back to really good, consistent racing. Because you're defined more on what you are on all of your days as an average than what you are on just your best day or your worst day. Right. And so I just want to see consistency both in the training arena, and then when we line up on the track, do we bring the same type of consistent competitive mentality and lining up competing to win races?
Well, I'm excited to see what they'll be able to show for us and in the indoor track and field season starting real soon. And then, of course, the outdoor following after that. Coach, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, Bryson. Appreciate you having me, man.